Okay, so the chapter on the GameMaker language is, let's take a look at the table of contents and we'll find it. So right here, become a programmer. This is chapter 12 in the book. Okay, so it's chapter 12 in the book. And what we want to do, just like in every language class in the world, they always show a hello world program. That tells you that the compiler is working and that you've got things actually functioning. And we're going to create a script. So if you could open up GameMaker and we can try creating this script. Okay, so we're going to create a script. We haven't done really this before. Maybe in Pyramid and Panic we did, but here we haven't tried that. So we say create script, and a script has to start with an open and closing curly brace. Curly braces are hard to see. They almost look like parentheses, but they're not. They're on the keyboard, they're right next to the letter P, and you have to shift it to get the curly brackets or curly braces. I call them curly braces. Some people call them curly brackets. Once you're inside a set of curly braces, then you indent one level. Going back to the book, then it tells us, it wants us to type this into our script. So let's do that. Now it's said to call the script hello, so let me rename it here. So GameMaker language is a scripting language. It's not really a compiled language. It just waits till it gets that part in the code, and then when you're supposed to show the script, it actually compiles it right there and then execute it. So that's called an interpreted language or a scripting language. That's what we're doing. If you've tried other languages like Ruby, I think is a scripting language. JavaScript is another scripting language. But then the question is, how do we actually run this so we can see that message? Let's see what the book has to say about that. Okay, so show message is in a different color. It tells you that it's a function. It's one of the built-in functions that comes with GameMaker. Now we want to execute the script. So what they say is, okay, we're just going to create an object that doesn't really need a picture yet, so we don't need a sprite. Okay, so we're going to create a dummy object, and we're going to put a key press space event in it. And what we'll do is we'll execute the script. So here, just create any object. It doesn't have to have a picture. You don't even have to name it. But we do want to add a key press event for the spacebar. Okay. What do we want to do? We want to execute a script, and that is right here. It's that one there. So it's on the control menu. Drag it over here, and then choose your script name. So the expectation here is, with the object in the room, we want to have a message come up when we hit. So I'm just going to create a bogus room and put the object in the room. For objects that don't have a picture, it just puts a little blue circle with a question mark because there's no sprite associated with it. We hit the space bar and we see our message come up. Okay. So you know you've done it right if that occurs when you start the game. Again, so quickly go over, create a script that has this syntax in it. Create a dummy object. Add a key press event for the space bar. And execute that script you created. And then to make it actually go, create a dummy room and put the object in the room, and then you can just start the game and hit the space bar. Okay. So now we know that we can run the program without having to do a lot of drag and drop. We can put actual code in the script and do a lot more than just show messages. What kind of functions are available in GameMaker language? You can take a look here and say show built-in functions off the scripts menu. Take a look at this list. So that's a lot more than you would see on the drag and drop menu. These are all functions, built-in functions you can use to create much more complex games than just, maze games and Lazarus or something like that. Tons of functions. So we now have all these different functions. We add that to our toolbox when we're creating games. So what functions have we used so far? We've used the random function to generate random numbers. We use that a lot in some of the other games. But there's also variables that you can use inside games. You can actually create your own variables as well. Some variables already exist, like x, y, speed, and direction. Those are all variables that are predefined in GameMaker. Let's take a look at our variables that are available. So go to scripts, look at variables, and you have not as many as functions, but here are a lot of the variables we've used in the past. X and Y are there, X previous, Y start, X start, V speed for vertical speed, speed in general, gravity. Perhaps we've used H speed, we have used. So a lot of these variables are predefined. Some of them are global, like the score. Score is a global variable, and those are already defined. But what's nice about GameMaker is you can create your own variables as well. You can put in arithmetic expressions that are used here. Like say you want a room width divided by 2. Say you're trying to center some object. This will center it on the screen in the middle of the room, in the middle of the level. You can use variables as parameters into functions. So if you want to randomly generate a location in the room, you can do it this way. You say random, send in room width, and it'll pick a number between 0 and like 640 to put the X, and then between 0 and 480 for the Y. So here's a way to get input from the user as they're playing the game. So maybe try this. Grab this code and let's put it in our hello function. We're gonna change it around a little bit. So we ask the user for their name, and then we show that on the screen. So going back into GameMaker, into our script. And here's our new program. So you get a string from the user, it puts up a prompt. I guess nobody is a default in case they don't type anything in. Store that string into your name, and then you use that variable your name inside another string that we show on the screen. So let's try that. Okay, hit the space bar. It asks me for my name, and I say okay. So now we can use variables inside our game, and again, notice how we're not dragging things in from the right. We're actually going to scripts. We're not like doing this and dragging this stuff in. We're putting all our code pretty much in these scripts. So it's a different way of programming with GameMaker. It's more difficult, but it's also more functional. So it's kind of a trade-off, I guess. Okay, so in GameMaker, there's 3 types of variables, 3 different types. By default, the variable is stored with the instance and remains available. So whatever object you're in, and it runs a script that creates a variable, that variable will live inside that object for as long as that object survives. This is the second type. If you add the word var, your name, to the project or the program, what that means is this variable only exists as long as the script is being executed. If once we get to the end of the script, that variable disappears and you can no longer reference it on the object. So it's local just to this script. Now when I do scripts, I usually do it like this because most of my variables I want to be local, and they're easier to control, and it also provides for less bugs later on. So if I were writing this class, I would take their advice, or writing the script, I would take their advice and declare your name as a variable, local only to this script. and say something like that. Now, you're not going to see a change in behavior, but later on, it'll become more important as we get more and more variables going on. So running the game again. Still works as before. But after we run that, if you go back to object and try to reference that variable called your name, it's not going to be there. The last type of variable you can have is called a global variable. This means this variable is available anywhere in the program at any time. It's not, this variable doesn't belong to an object. It doesn't belong to a script. It belongs to the entire game. Now, global variables are frowned upon by most programmers because they cause a lot of issues when it comes to debugging. But if you have to do a global variable, and sometimes you do, you have to put the global keyword on it before the variable name. So if you go back into the script again, you don't want to be local to the script, but you want to be global to the whole game. You actually have to put the word global at the front of it. And now after this script runs, there'll be a variable called your name that can be accessed anywhere by any object at any time. You don't typically want this. But if you look in GameMaker, it does provide for a series of global variables. So here's the variables, and here's all the ones that are global. And there's some that are recognizable that we've used before. See how there's a lives one, there's a health one. Those are global variables. It belongs to the whole game. So if you have more than one player, that's a problem because there's only one, say there's only one health variable. So that's not going to work for two-player games. Room is a global variable. Score is global. We've seen that. So anywhere in your code, you can type in this variable name, and it will know that it's a global variable. Okay, we're going to stop there for now.